Dr. Zyra Valen had published 17 peer-reviewed papers on human behavioral instability, and every single one of them ended with the same conclusion: humans were dangerously susceptible to visual stimuli. Not logic. Not hierarchy. Not pheromonal dominant structures. Visual curvature. In her defense, the data was absurdly convincing. Human media feeds were saturated with optimized bodies. Advertising metrics spiked around symmetry and exaggerated silhouettes. Political campaigns subtly adjusted lighting, posture, and framing. Entire industries revolved around cosmetic enhancement. From her perspective as a senior anthropologist of the Interstellar Cognitive Institute, the conclusion was obvious. Humans were not ruled by reason. They were ruled by aesthetic suggestion. The problem was scale. Influencing individuals was trivial. Influencing governments required precision. If she could construct a biological form engineered to maximize human compliance response, she would prove once and for all that the species considered dangerously innovative by several galactic councils was, in fact, visually hackable. Her colleagues had laughed. "You believe you can bend a civilization with posture?" "Yes," she had replied calmly. "If posture is properly calibrated." Which is how Ethan Cole ended up staring at a 12-foot translucent hologram of an alien anatomical wireframe rotating slowly in midair, while holding a cup of rapidly cooling coffee. He was an aerospace systems engineer. He built orbital stabilization platforms and optimized load distribution for atmospheric entry vehicles. He did not, as he had politely clarified 3 times, design bodies. "I was told this was a cross-cultural interface project," he said carefully. "It is," Zyra replied. Her voice was smooth, controlled, faintly melodic in a way that suggested deliberate modulation. She stood tall, already striking by human standards, with iridescent skin that shimmered subtly under laboratory lighting. Large dark eyes observed him with scientific intensity, as though he were a particularly interesting algorithm. "I require assistance constructing the optimal biological interface to influence human decision-making," she continued. Ethan blinked. "You want armor design?" "No." There was a pause. "You want a diplomatic exosuit?" "No." Another pause. The hologram shifted, highlighting curvature ratios and glowing lines. "I want to redesign my body." Silence expanded like vacuum. Ethan set his coffee down very slowly. "I'm sorry." She gestured to the hologram. "Human attraction patterns correlate strongly with curvature amplification. I intend to engineer the most persuasive configuration possible." He looked from the hologram to her and back again. "You're trying to brute force charisma." She tilted her head slightly. "Define brute force." "Overwhelming the system with exaggerated input instead of understanding the architecture." Her eyes brightened. "Exactly." He exhaled through his nose. This was not what he had expected when he signed the interspecies collaboration contract. Still, engineering was engineering. "Fine," he muttered, stepping closer to the projection. "If we're treating this as an interface problem, then we start with metrics. What's the goal?" "Compliance," she answered immediately. "Increased persuasive authority. Reduced resistance. Accelerated agreement curves." He rubbed his temples. "You want to control politicians with proportions?" "Yes." "Okay." He straightened, professional instincts kicking in despite himself. "Then we approach this like user experience design." She leaned forward slightly. "Explain." "Humans respond to emotional engagement triggers. Micro-expressions. Posture alignment. Confidence projection. Timing. It's not just curves, it's how those curves move." Her gaze sharpened. "Movement vectors." "Exactly. And center of mass distribution affects posture stability. If you exaggerate beyond functional balance, you reduce authority instead of increasing it." She considered that seriously. "So excess curvature may destabilize perceived dominance? Or make you look like you're compensating?" Her brow furrowed, as if the concept of compensation offended her species on a cellular level. He pulled up a control panel and began sketching overlays. We'll run simulations. Eye tracking heat maps. Attention retention metrics. Hormonal response predictions. But I'm telling you now, this won't scale the way you think. She stepped closer, studying his hands as they moved. Why? Because humans don't like being controlled. Her lips curved slightly. Your advertising industry suggests otherwise. Advertising doesn't control. It nudges. And even then, people rebel constantly. She watched him for a long moment. You are unusually resistant. I'm sleep-deprived and underqualified, he replied dryly. That is not what I meant. The hologram shifted again as he adjusted projection ratios, smoothing lines, refining structural balance. He approached it the way he approached spacecraft design, no wasted elements, no instability, everything anchored to function. She observed every micro-adjustment with fascination. You are reducing exaggeration, she noted. I'm optimizing load distribution. Load distribution is irrelevant to persuasion. It's not irrelevant if you trip walking into the United Nations. That earned the faintest flicker of amusement in her eyes. They worked for hours. He built predictive models, layering posture algorithms over anatomical modifications. She provided cultural datasets, terabytes of analyzed human media, behavioral heat charts, reaction spikes during award shows and political rallies. When the first full simulation rendered, she inhaled slowly. Her redesigned form stood in virtual space, refined curvature, subtly enhanced symmetry, posture calibrated for maximum visual dominance without destabilizing center of mass. It was striking. Dramatic. Carefully engineered. Run scenario, she ordered. A simulated human boardroom materialized. AI constructs representing global leaders populated seats around a table. She entered the room. Attention metrics spiked immediately. Compliance probability, 87%. Silence followed the data. She turned to him slowly. You see? Ethan stared at the numbers. They were impressive. But something in his expression remained unconvinced. You built the model, she said. Yeah, he replied quietly. And humans aren't models. She stepped closer, studying him the way she had studied the hologram. You doubt your own projections. I doubt anything that claims humans are predictable. She straightened, confidence radiating from her newly calibrated posture. Humanity is governed by impulse. Impulse is measurable. He met her gaze evenly. Humanity is chaotic. A small crease formed between her brows. She dismissed the boardroom simulation and replaced it with another scenario: press conference environment, flashing lights, dense crowd. Metrics climbed again. Compliance probability, 91%. Her voice softened, almost triumphant. They will bend. Ethan watched the numbers scroll and felt a strange unease settle in his chest. You're trying to hack a species that invented sarcasm, he said. She did not understand the warning in that. Instead, she smiled, precise, calculated, flawless. Prepare the first live test, she said. And somewhere beneath his skepticism, beneath the engineering pride at a well-built system, Ethan realized he wasn't worried about humanity being controlled. He was worried about her being very, very wrong. The second week of development began with 3 whiteboards, 12 holographic overlays, and a heated debate about shoulder angles. Ethan stood with a stylus in one hand and a protein bar in the other, staring at the projection of Zyra's updated form rotating slowly in the center of the lab. Subtle adjustments had been made overnight, refinements to symmetry, micro-alterations in waist-to-hip ratios, minute changes in spinal curvature to enhance posture authority without sacrificing balance. You increased projection amplitude by 4%, he said without turning. Yes, she replied calmly. Human visual fixation increases at that threshold. Short-term, he corrected. Long-term perception might interpret that as artificial. She stepped into the light of the projection, studying her holographic double with clinical focus. Artificiality is irrelevant if the objective is control. He finally looked at her. It's not irrelevant to humans. She narrowed her eyes slightly. You continue to insist your species prefers inefficiency. It's not inefficiency. It's authenticity. She paused at that word again, as if it were a software update she had not yet installed. They resumed testing. Ethan approached the redesign like a user interface problem layered over biomechanics. He coded posture algorithms that subtly shifted weight distribution to maximize perceived confidence. He calibrated eye contact timing, 3.2 seconds to signal authority, 2.1 to signal warmth. He mapped micro-expression enhancements to increase emotional resonance without triggering subconscious distrust. Raise chin elevation by half a degree, he muttered. She complied instantly. Hold that. Now soften orbital muscle tension. Her expression shifted almost imperceptibly. He ran the simulation. Attention retention climbed. Engagement probability rose to 93%. She watched the metrics with growing satisfaction. You see? Optimization yields results. Optimization yields attention, he corrected. Not obedience. She folded her arms. You differentiate. Always. The first controlled release happened 48 hours later. They uploaded a short, professionally shot clip to multiple anonymous social platforms. In it, Zyra walked through a minimalist white corridor, posture perfectly calibrated, gaze steady, movements fluid and mathematically balanced. No dialogue. Just presence. They waited. Initial analytics were explosive. View counts skyrocketed within minutes. Heat maps showed intense fixation around predicted curvature zones. She smiled as numbers climbed. Compliance precursor achieved. Then the comments started. Is this a new sci-fi trailer? Why does she walk like she's buffering? Performance art queen. Who animated this NPC? Ethan leaned back slowly in his chair. Told you. She frowned at the scrolling reactions. They are amused. Yes. Amusement was not projected. Nope. More comments flooded in. She's iconic. I don't know what this is, but I support her. Is this fashion? Politics? Alien runway? Fan edits appeared within hours. Someone added dramatic music. Someone else turned her walk into a looping meme. Her engagement metrics soared higher than any compliance model predicted. But compliance probability remained flat. They are not submitting, she said quietly. No, Ethan replied. They're remixing. She stared at the screen as another viral edit played, this one exaggerating her posture algorithm into slow-motion cinematic drama. They do not fear aesthetic dominance, she murmured. Humans don't fear what they can meme. She turned toward him sharply. Explain. It means if we can joke about it, it doesn't control us. She processed that in silence. More analytics rolled in. Unexpected pattern. Long-term engagement was higher on clips where her posture calibration glitched slightly, where her movement seemed less mathematically perfect and more spontaneous. Ethan zoomed in on the data. Look at this. She stepped beside him. When your shoulder alignment slipped by 0.3 degrees here, engagement sustained longer. That was a calculation delay, she said. Yeah. It looked natural. She studied the frame, eyes narrowing. Imperfection increases resonance? Sometimes. She straightened slowly. That contradicts efficiency. Welcome to humanity. Frustration flickered across her features for the first time since he had met her. My thesis asserts visual leverage can override rational autonomy. Your thesis doesn't account for sarcasm, irony, or collective rebellion. She moved away from the console, pacing. Even her pacing remained elegant, though the precision was beginning to strain. I will escalate, she said finally. He closed his eyes briefly. That's not what I meant. I will increase amplitude. That's definitely not what I meant. She adjusted the projection again, amplifying curvature, refining proportions further into dramatic territory. It was stunning. Striking. Almost mythic. Run simulation, she ordered. Boardroom environment rendered again. Compliance probability, 96%. She exhaled slowly. Near certainty. Based on your model, he reminded her. She turned toward him, gaze intense. Why are you unaffected? By what? She gestured to her projected form. This. He looked at the hologram clinically. Because I helped design it. That does not negate biological response. I'm not evaluating you biologically, he said evenly. I'm evaluating load-bearing structures and algorithmic stability. She stared at him for several seconds longer than necessary. That is inefficient, she said softly. Or maybe I just don't like being manipulated. The room quieted. For the first time, something uncertain flickered behind her composure. Later that evening, as global engagement numbers continued climbing, she stood alone before the projection. No simulations. No metrics. Just her redesigned silhouette rotating in silence. Humans are visually driven, she whispered to herself. Behind her, Ethan leaned against the console, arms crossed. Yeah, he said gently. But we're not visually owned. She glanced back at him. What motivates you? She asked. He shrugged. Depends. Respect. Curiosity. Someone being real. Real, she repeated. Unfiltered. Not optimized. She considered that, then slowly deactivated the posture algorithm. Her holographic double relaxed slightly, subtle shifts, tiny asymmetries. They reran the public test with a short live stream. This time she simply stood before the camera and said nothing. No perfect stance. No calibrated eye contact. Just presence. The spike was smaller at first. But the comments changed. She feels different here. Okay, why is this low-key mesmerizing? Wait, I think she's actually kind of cool. Engagement curve sustained longer. Ethan pointed at the graph. See that? She nodded slowly. Long-term resonance was increasing. Compliance still flat. But something else was happening. Interest. Connection. She turned to him, quieter now. Perhaps controlled dominance is insufficient. Maybe, he said. She studied his face, his tired eyes, the stubborn calm, the refusal to be impressed by numbers alone. You remain immune, she said again. He gave a faint smile. I'm not immune. She tilted her head. Clarify. I just don't confuse design with identity. That lingered in the space between them. Her next decision came without simulation. I will visit Earth. He straightened immediately. That's a terrible idea. If models are insufficient, direct field research is required. You're already viral. Then I will observe humanity at scale. He ran a hand through his hair. You're about to meet 8 billion unpredictable variables. Her eyes gleamed with determination. Good, she said. Let them try to resist. And for the first time since this project began, Ethan wasn't worried about her failing to control humanity. He was worried about what humanity would do when it decided to embrace her instead. They landed in the middle of a city that never stopped filming itself. Zaira had selected the location based on density metrics, media saturation, and political proximity. If humanity could be influenced visually, then a global capital pulsing with cameras and decision-makers was the optimal testing ground. Ethan stepped out beside her, already regretting everything. She had chosen a balanced configuration, less exaggerated than her peak optimization model, but still undeniably striking. Her posture algorithm hummed quietly beneath the surface, adjusting weight distribution in real time. Chin elevation precise. Shoulder alignment flawless. Gait smooth enough to look rehearsed but not mechanical. For 12 full seconds, no one noticed. Then someone did a double take. A phone came out. Another. Within minutes, 3 pedestrians had stopped walking entirely. Okay, wait, what is that? Someone whispered. Is this a shoot? Bro, I think that's an influencer. Zaira slowed her pace slightly, increasing gaze stability by 0.2 seconds per contact. She projected calm dominance. Authority. Controlled charisma. More phones appeared. Yo, she walks like a final boss. She's kind of insane. Is this some art thing? Ethan kept his head down. This is already not going how you predicted. Her eyes flicked toward him briefly. Attention levels are high. Yes, he said. So are mean probabilities. By the time they reached the end of the block, they were surrounded, not aggressively, but curiously. People smiled. Some clapped. One person shouted, "Slay, Intergalactic Queen!" She paused. That was not in the linguistic dataset, she murmured. A young woman approached cautiously. Excuse me, are you performing somewhere? Because this is iconic. Zyra assessed her. Friendly posture. Elevated pulse. No signs of intimidation. I am conducting anthropological research, she said clearly, voice harmonics perfectly tuned. The woman blinked. That's amazing. I love that for you. Another person chimed in. Wait, is this viral girl from the White Hallway video? Recognition spread like wildfire. Within an hour, she was trending across 3 platforms. Ethan checked his phone and groaned. You're already number 2. 2 in what hierarchy? She asked. Global trending. She straightened subtly. Excellent. It's not a dominance chart. She attempted her first controlled persuasion attempt outside a government building. Cameras were everywhere now. She positioned herself at the base of the steps, posture at optimal authority setting. I seek dialogue with your planetary leadership, she declared. Someone from the crowd yelled. This is performance art, right? Another shouted. I would vote for her. Laughter rippled outward. The doors behind her remained closed. No officials emerged. Instead, security politely informed Ethan that the influencer event needed a permit. She turned to him slowly. They are not complying. No, he said. They think you're a vibe. A what? A vibe. Her posture algorithm faltered for half a second. Later that evening, a late-night talk show host played clips of her speech. The audience cheered. She wants to talk to world leaders, the host joked. Honestly? Mood. More applause. Her persuasion model had predicted intimidation or reverence. Instead, humanity responded with enthusiasm, humor, and remix culture. Fan art exploded online. Artists reimagined her in different outfits. Someone edited sparkles around her walk. Someone added dramatic anime music. Someone slowed her movements and titled it Alien CO Energy. Her engagement metrics shattered every ceiling she had built. Compliance probability remained unchanged. She stood in their temporary apartment, staring at 6 holographic screens of live data. This is statistically incoherent, she whispered. Ethan sat on the couch, scrolling through edits of her struts set to dance tracks. It's not incoherent. It's human. I increased curvature amplitude within safe stability thresholds. I optimized micro-expressions. I projected authority. They respond with parity. Not parody, he corrected gently. Affection. She turned toward him sharply. Affection does not produce compliance. No, he agreed. But it produces loyalty. And attention. And connection. She paced, tension disrupting her usually fluid movements. I require control variables, she said. I will attempt direct rhetorical persuasion. He winced. Okay. But maybe, turn off the dominance mode. She ignored that. The next morning, she live-streamed from the same city square. Millions joined within minutes. She activated full calibration. Humans, she began, voice resonating with carefully tuned authority. Your decision-making structures are inefficient. I offer optimization. Chat exploded instantly. She's reading us. Queen said fix your life. Why is this low-key motivational? She continued. Through visual leverage and structured presence, compliance can be increased by. The comments derailed into memes before she finished the sentence. Someone clipped her saying, visual leverage, and turned it into a dance remix. Another edited sparkles into her eyes. Instead of submission, she had launched a cultural phenomenon. She ended the stream abruptly. Silence filled the apartment. Ethan waited. Finally she spoke, quieter than he had ever heard her. "They do not fear aesthetic dominance," she said. "No. They do not resent attempted control. Not if it's entertaining." She looked at him, confusion softening into something more vulnerable. "Your species is defective." He laughed before he could stop himself. "Yeah. That's kind of our thing." She did not smile. "My thesis depends on demonstrating that humans are governed by visual impulse. That leadership can be swayed through aesthetic pressure." "And what if we can't?" he asked gently. She hesitated. "That would imply autonomy is preserved despite biological stimulus. Which would mean that humans are more resilient than projected." He stood and walked closer to her. "You're not wrong about attraction," he said. "We notice beauty. We react to presence. But reacting isn't surrendering." She studied his face carefully, searching for inconsistency. "Then why do you continue to resist?" she asked. "I'm not resisting you." "Clarify." "I just don't feel controlled." That seemed to unsettle her more than any meme. "Am I ineffective?" she asked quietly. The vulnerability in her voice caught him off guard. "No," he said. "You're overwhelming. You're impressive. You're viral in 12 countries. But none of that equals power." She turned away from him, staring out the window at a city glowing with screens. "I attempted to design inevitability," she said. "Humans hate inevitability." She was silent for a long time. Then, without warning, she deactivated the posture algorithm entirely. Her shoulders dropped slightly, not weak, just natural. Her stance shifted into something uncalculated. She faced him again. "Then I will attempt honesty," she said. Before he could respond, she opened another live stream. No calibrated lighting. No dramatic entrance. Just her. "I miscalculated," she said plainly to the millions watching. "I believed your species could be directed through visual authority. Instead, you respond with humor, reinterpretation, and communal creativity. You resist control through participation." The chat slowed. People listened. "I sought to test your autonomy," she continued. "You have demonstrated it." Silence in the apartment except for the hum of data streams. Engagement numbers climbed again, steadier this time. Comments shifted tone. "She's actually real." "Okay, wait, I respect this." "Alien apology arc." Ethan watched the metrics stabilize, not spike, not explode, but sustain. Connection probability, rising. Compliance probability, irrelevant. She ended the stream and turned to him. "The only human I have failed to influence," she said slowly, "is you." He met her gaze evenly. "You never tried to understand me. You tried to optimize me." Something in her expression changed. For the first time since arriving on Earth, she did not look like a researcher studying a specimen. She looked like someone reconsidering everything. Outside, the city roared with digital noise and endless unpredictability. Inside, for the first time, her models felt small. And she was beginning to suspect that humanity's greatest defense was not logic, or strength, or technology, but the simple refusal to behave the way it was supposed to. The summons from her superiors arrived 12 hours after the honesty stream. It was not phrased as anger. It was phrased as inquiry. "Provide conclusive results regarding human compliance susceptibility." Zyra stood in the center of the apartment, holographic projection of the Interstellar Cognitive Council shimmering above the table. Tall, luminous figures observed her without visible emotion. Their species valued conclusions, not spectacle. Behind her, Ethan leaned quietly against the wall, arms folded, saying nothing. "Your viral presence indicates influence," one counselor said. "Have human decision-makers demonstrated increased obedience?" She did not answer immediately. Her analytics still floated in peripheral displays: engagement, admiration, imitation, parody, loyalty curves rising like tidal patterns across the planet. Compliance probability, statistically insignificant. No, she said at last. A ripple of subtle energy passed between the counselors. Clarify. Humans respond intensely to visual stimulus, she began, voice steady. However, response does not equal surrender. Attraction does not override autonomy. You previously projected a 96% compliance rate. My model was incomplete. A pause. Explain the error. She glanced at Ethan briefly, then back at the projection. I optimize for dominance, she said. Humans reject dominance when it is imposed. They reinterpret it. They transform it into satire, admiration, art. They refuse inevitability. One counselor leaned forward slightly. Then human irrationality is overstated? Yes, she replied. They are emotional, but not controllable. Their unpredictability functions as a defense mechanism. Ethan's lips twitched faintly at that. The council absorbed this in silence. You have failed to demonstrate visual override capability. Yes, she said again. Then your hypothesis was flawed, she finished. Another ripple. Your career metrics will be adjusted accordingly. There it was. Consequence. Reputation recalibration. Years of research reframed as overreach. She felt the weight of it, and for the first time, it did not feel catastrophic. However, she continued before they could disconnect. The failure produced a superior finding. The council paused. State it. Humans cannot be ruled through appearance, she said clearly. They must be persuaded through trust. Their autonomy remains intact despite biological stimulus. This resilience explains their rapid technological ascent. They resist manipulation at scale. Silence deepened. You propose that unpredictability is strength? Yes. Another long pause. Submit full report. The projection dissolved. The apartment was suddenly quiet. Ethan pushed off the wall. That went better than expected. My academic standing will decline, she said calmly. Yeah, he admitted. Probably. She looked at him. I do not regret the conclusion. He smiled faintly. That's growth. She tilted her head. Growth was not the objective. Maybe it should have been. She moved toward the window again, city lights reflecting across her iridescent skin. Down below, a group of strangers had gathered, some holding signs with stylized drawings of her silhouette. Someone had painted the words Alien CO Energy across cardboard. They admire me, she said softly. Despite my intent to control them. Because you stopped trying to. She turned back to him. I do not understand why you were never influenced, she said. He shrugged slightly. You were impressive. But I knew you were running code. And when I ceased? Then you started being real. She studied him closely, no algorithms running now, no posture calibration humming beneath the surface. Just observation. When I addressed them honestly, she said slowly, engagement stabilized rather than spiking. Yeah. That pattern resembles long-term relational bonding. Exactly. She stepped closer to him, close enough that he could see faint color shifts in her skin responding to emotional fluctuation. Then why did you remain stable throughout? She asked. He hesitated only a second. Because I wasn't looking at your curves, he said quietly. I was looking at you. Her pupils widened slightly. Clarify. I didn't see a weapon, he said. Or a design project. I saw someone trying to prove something. Silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable, but charged with something neither had modeled. My species does not typically engage in pair-bond research with test subjects, she said carefully. He laughed softly. That might be your first smart decision. A faint shimmer of amusement crossed her expression. Mutual study, she corrected. I can work with that. Outside, her phone began buzzing again, another surge of notifications. She ignored it. Humans amplify authenticity, she said thoughtfully. It increases connection probability beyond calculated projection. Welcome to the mess, he replied. She stepped even closer, gaze steady but no longer calibrated. I dislike unknown variables, she admitted. He smiled. Get used to it. For a moment neither moved. Then she reached up, slowly, deliberately, and deactivated the final enhancement layer embedded in her physiology. Subtle shifts followed. Micro-adjustments dissolved. Her stance settled into something effortless. No dominance. No optimization. Just presence. If visual control is impossible, she said softly, then collaboration may yield superior outcomes. Is that your professional opinion? He asked. It is my revised hypothesis. And personally? A small pause. I find the unknown compelling. He met her gaze steadily. Good. Down below, someone started chanting her name, incorrectly pronounced, but enthusiastic. She glanced toward the sound, then back at him. They do not obey, she said. Nope. They reinterpret. Constantly. They resist inevitability. All the time. A faint smile curved her lips, not calculated, not measured. Then humanity is not visually hackable, she concluded. Not a chance. She extended her hand toward him, not as a command, not as leverage, but as invitation. Continue research, she said. He took her hand without hesitation. Together, he replied. Outside, the city pulsed with chaotic life, memes evolving, art spreading, strangers bonding over a viral alien who tried to conquer them with posture and ended up confessing vulnerability instead. Her compliance model flickered one last time on a forgotten screen. Error. Variable undefined. Connection probability immeasurable. She looked at it briefly, then powered it down. For the first time since beginning her study, she was not attempting to predict humanity. She was choosing to experience it. And somewhere between curves and chaos, optimization and honesty, she had discovered the one variable her models could never calculate. A species that refused to be ruled. And a human engineer who never once tried to rule her back.